Shalom, Israel. Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahshua Barakatham. We are the Isupk coming on 125th, 1 West, Harlem, New York, under Commander General Yaahla. This is the Baltimore Brotherhood class. And of course, we are going to discuss some controversial topics today as far as Thanksgiving is concerned. So, in about 2 days, what's that going to be? November 26th? What's the date? November 26th. In 2 days, millions of people across the country will be celebrating Thanksgiving. And why should they not, right? Why shouldn't they? I mean, it's a time you get to eat the big turkey, you got the big ham that Mama made, you got the stuffing, you got what else you got? The sweet potatoes and the yams and the potato salad. Your uncle's going to come over and sit with you and tell jokes. Probably the same uncle that probably even abused you when you were younger, but we all have to act like that didn't happen. But we got family all around, and you get to hang out with family, stay late. People will come united. So what's wrong with celebrating that? I have so much to be thankful for. I hear that a lot of times. And we can be thankful to the Most High for celebrating this wonderful holiday. Well, we're going to talk about Thanksgiving today, and we're going to talk about, is it brotherly, since this is a brotherhood class, is it brotherly to celebrate Thanksgiving? And when I say brotherly, is that are you loving your neighbor, and the neighbor is, I'm talking about the person of your nation, when you celebrate this holiday? And that's what we're going to find out today. We're going to, what do they say? The proof is in the pudding. Okay? So we'll see, let's see what the scriptures have to say about it. Let's see what history has to say about it. And then we'll come up to some, a solution that is, some solutions, per se. All right, so let's talk about Thanksgiving. I'll try to remember what I learned in school, and people can chime in. Well, when I was a kid, we always, during Thanksgiving, during school time, we had to color the turkey in, and we would, of course, read the Thanksgiving story, which pretty much went like this. There were some pilgrims that came over here. Of course, they were all dressed in, they had black and white outfits on, and they met a tribe. I think it was the Wampanoag tribe, and they had an Indian with them named Squanto. And Squanto was the little Indian guy that helped have relations, mend relations between the Wampanoag and the Pilgrims. And everything was, and Squanto was just happy where his condition was. The Pilgrims needed help. The Wampanoags came and helped them. They all sat down and had a meal. And that was, I believe, in 1621. The first Thanksgiving. As we colored in the pictures, we had to color the white pilgrims and the Indians there and turkeys running around. As we colored in those pictures, the teachers always made it seem like this was a joyous, festive event. Because the Wampanoag tribe, I think the chief name was Massasoit, if I remember correctly, he brought like 90 men to a meal. The pilgrims welcomed them. They all sat down and ate deer, and Squanto was the one that was bringing the tribes together. Squanto, of course, could speak to the Wampanoag tribes, and he could speak English, and everything was well. The natives helped the pilgrims survive since half of them died, I believe, in that first year that they were there after they arrived on the Mayflower. Great story. Why not celebrate that? I mean, great story. But is that the real story? Of course, it's not the real story. Of course it's not the real story. Somebody until you get older and then you find out the truth. It does set you free, but of course it makes you mad. So what really did happen on Thanksgiving? Okay, so what really did happen, and why should we even put into question in the Isupk? I mean, because people say, well, I know why you don't celebrate Christmas. It's pagan. I got that. Okay, Easter. But I've heard some people say, well, Thanksgiving, shouldn't you brothers be thankful? They always want to ask the black man, should he be thankful in his horrible condition? So, and I've heard people say, well, you should be thankful. And I'm like, okay. So, now, let's talk about the real history. What really happened in Thanksgiving? Well, basically most of the stuff that we learned in school was absolutely false. Yes, the Pilgrims did come over here, and the Pilgrims did die. Most of them did die in that, especially the first harsh winter. And the natives did help them. Okay, but then that's kind of where it gets a little fuzzy. Because there's actually a lot of debate on what really happened. Most scholars agree, and we're talking about scholars here, that there was Thanksgiving didn't start in 1621. There was plenty of Thanksgivings beforehand because, the Pilgrims a lot of times wanted to celebrate, their fall harvest, and even the natives celebrated certain harvests. So what about this dinner event? What made this so special? Well, we got to understand the history. First of all, let's talk about Squanto. The one that they said was just a happy native that just mended relations. First of all, we have to talk about that Squanto was actually kidnapped. Okay? He was actually kidnapped by the Spanish and was taken from his home and was taken to Europe. And most of his tribe was wiped out by the diseases of the white man that they brought over here. The diseases like, smallpox, flux, measles, all of that stuff pretty much destroyed his tribe. And they kidnapped him and brought him over to Spain. And then somehow I think he got with the English. Now, scholars even said that when Squanto was brought over here by the Pilgrims, he was actually more as a hostage. He wasn't really like this friendly native that wanted to mend with. They pretty much had him as hostage. And pretty much the Wampanoag tribe was pretty much decimated by the white man's diseases. They were pretty much decimated already. So the Wampanoags was pretty much trying to have a treaty, with these white settlers that came in because they were in a bad condition. And they had enemy tribes, I can't remember some of them, I think some of them were the Massachusetts and the Narragansetts. So they were trying to make a treaty, pretty much, when they showed up. And actually, even when they showed up at the harvest meal, it wasn't even a friendly per se, because they say when they showed up, the Pilgrims shot their guns in the air, letting those natives know, you better not step out of line. And the natives did come, and they had a seat together, but more likely, Massasoit was trying to make a treaty with the English settlers so that he could have protection because his tribe was in survival mode. Now, this is where Thanksgiving history gets interesting. Of course, what does the white man always do when he make a treaty with them? He says something with his mouth and agrees, and then he does another action. We know the story. That's why how many treaties were broken by the natives would make a treaty with him, and then he would agree with it, of course, and then he would do something else. It's the same thing he does today as a politician. He'll say, something, but it could mean double things. That's what they always said. He talked with a forked tongue. So basically, the white man was breaking his promises to the Wampanoag tribe. They made treaties together, and throughout the rest of those years, they were breaking those treaties and taking the Wampanoag's land. They were taking it. They kept breaking promises and taking their land. To the point that at some point, the Wampanoag's son, I think Massasoit's son, at some point started to have a war. And that's why it's called King Philip's War. Because the natives got together and had to try to fight this devil that kept infringing and taking their lands. And how did the treaty end that the so-called white man made? They cut off Massasoit's son's head, decapitated him. And that is Thanksgiving. That's the truth about Thanksgiving. That is the truth. So Thanksgiving actually commemorates the slaughter. And actually, even historians will say this. I forgot to add this in here. A lot of historians believe that when the Wampanoags came and sat down and had dinner with the colonists, some people don't even think the Wampanoags were invited, but they think Massasoit just showed up. So a lot of scholars actually believe that the colonists were actually celebrating another slaughter of about 600 native men, women, and children, and they were celebrating that. They were actually celebrating that. So really the history of Thanksgiving has to do with the slaughter of hundreds and even thousands of Native Americans in this land who just so happen to be our people. And we're going to get into that day because people don't think natives are part of the tribes. So this day commemorates the slaughter of Israelites. So we can't sit up here and commemorate a day that talks about the slaughter of us. You're not going to see Jewish man commemorate. What is that called that happened in Germany where Hitler was destroying their businesses? They called the Kristallnacht night, where Hitler and them, the Nazis. You're not going to see the Jewish man commemorate that night where the Jewish businesses were destroyed and decimated in Germany. You're not going to see that. Okay, you're not going to see that day. You're not going to see us have a meal on Pearl Harbor Day, are we? You're going to be like, it was great those Japanese attacked. You're not going to see the white man do that. The white man every year, December 7th, infamy. They're always angry. You're not going to see us have a 9/11 meal. It's 9/11, ham in my house, turkey. Okay, we're not going to have a 9/11 meal, but for some reason, we're commemorating a day that has to do with the slaughter of thousands of our Israelite brothers and sisters. This is the true history of Thanksgiving. And we're going to talk about why it is not brotherly, why you should not celebrate this holiday. And I'm talking to the black man, Hispanic man, and Native man. Why? And actually, you know what? I don't even need to talk to the Native men because Native children every year hate this part of the year. Studies have even shown this. Because they got to sit in class and listen to the teacher talk about a false story. A lot of Native children that are in school hate this time of year, especially sitting in school. They're not sitting in school now personally, but, even online. Because they have to hear the false story of the so-called, good ties between the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag tribe. And they have to go through that. And it's painful to them. So, we got to look at this, Israel's why we should not celebrate this day. But, of course, the white man wants to make it seem like this is a great day. Because, the white man always likes to celebrate his victories over the slaughter of us. That's why you got Columbus Day, Thanksgiving, President's Day. That's why the white man always likes to boast of his triumphs. That's why you got the Redskins, the helmets and stuff of an Indian head. The white man likes to boast about that stuff. The white man likes to boast about that. All right? So we have to be careful, and we're going to go through. And the white man, when he boasts about it, he still, for some reason, wants us to make, he portrays us as happy, like we're just enjoying this. And there's a scripture about that. Let's take a look at Psalm 137, and let's go to 3-4. Because the white man always wants to make it seem like when the black man, Hispanic man, and Native man are in a bad condition, he always wants us to appear happy. He always wants us to, that's why, when Biden won, what were black people saying? We did it! And I'm like, wait, did what? We did it! And the white man loves that because he wants you to always forget the crimes that he committed, even though, it's a holiday right in your face. But he always wants us to do things. Most of the time what he'll do is he'll have us entertain him or do some type of entertainment. Let's look at Psalm 137. Let's look at verses 3-4. We have that? Let's look at verses, Psalm 137, 3-4. Because, we're going to see how when we're in our captivity, we're going to see the same attitude that the scripture says about what our oppressor has of us. You're going to see that today. We got Psalm 137?
Oh, God.
All right, let's start with verse 3. Papa Kushai.
Psalms 137, verse 3. For there, they that carried us away captive required of us a song.
All right, stop right there. So they that carried us away captive require us a song. You know that they always love, one thing the white man loves is he loves an entertaining Negro or an entertaining Latino, entertaining Hispanic. That's why, or entertaining Native. That's why, he makes money off of us. Okay, that's why, always when there's a black group, look who's behind it. When there's a black athlete, because he likes that. Because when we do this entertainment, he wants us to sing away or dance away our worries. What else does it say?
And they that wasted us required us mirth, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion.
Okay, entertain us, boy. Back in slavery, you had the entertaining Negro. That was the one that came out, just even on the movie Roots. Remember, you had Fiddler. When the white man wanted to be entertained, you had to come out and tap and you had to tap dance for him, and you still see that today. Even when Biden won, Officer Matazaba was talking about there was a native that got out and did a native dance, and people were like, "Oh, that's beautiful." So it's right into Scripture. Dancing for our oppressor. Well, the reason this fits right into history is because when we learn about the Native Americans in school, they always make it seem like they were happy. We talk about Squanto. When we learned about Squanto, they made Squanto look like the dancing person, happy. He was, we didn't know he was a hostage really by the white man. He was happy. He was happy to interpret and make relations men. We didn't know they probably had a knife to his throat. Just like when how many people seen that the cartoon Pocahontas? Anybody seen that when it came out in Disney? I saw it when I was a kid. They made Pocahontas seem like when the white man came, like life was better. And remember, she was singing songs just around the river bend. She was happy doing cartwheels and running with John Smith because the white man wants you to believe that. He wants you to believe that when we're in a slave position, that to sing and we're happy. Little does people know that. Do you know that Pocahontas was actually captured and gang raped daily by the white man? She even said it. She said when her sister came to visit her, she said these white men are raping me every day. They didn't put that in the song. They didn't put that. And if you notice in the cartoon, Pocahontas didn't want the Indian man, the Native man. She wanted that white man, John Smith. When in reality, the Native man that she married, they actually killed him in front of her. When they took her and when they kidnapped her. See, the white man always wants to make it seem like, even though he's, throwing his crimes right in front of us, he always wants to smooth it right out to make it seem like it's okay. And that's why he changes the history. He changes the history of Thanksgiving. He makes it seem like Pocahontas was okay. He does this. He makes it seem like 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Not telling us that he just pretty much wiped out the Taínos. Well, that's nothing. And so, getting back to the point is that the emphatic question is, should we celebrate Thanksgiving? The answer is an absolute no. An absolute no. And we're going to go into reasons why we should not celebrate this. We're going to go, we looked at history. History should say it enough. But we're actually even going to go into some points of why. So let's go into some points of why we shouldn't celebrate Thanksgiving. Point number one, the Most High said not to. That should be enough right there. The Most High said you not. The Most High commanded people to specifically not to observe the customs and the ways of the nations around us. He was very specific on that. He told Israel, that includes the black man, Hispanic, and Native man, that you are not to observe the customs and statutes and laws of the nations that surrounded them when they were in the land. Okay? And he doesn't want us to do that now. He doesn't know, because when he gave us these laws, statutes, and commandments, we were to observe them forever. So he didn't say, well, when I scatter you, just do it now. One of the parts of the curses was that when he scattered us, we would be worshiping gods that we, wood and stone, which has happened, Christianity, Islam, because that's part of it. But the Most High never wanted us to be like the nations around us. And so, let's look at some examples. Let's look at Deuteronomy 12. Let's look at verse 30 through 31. So, reason number one, why, and when I say why, I'm talking to the black man, Hispanic man, I'm sure the Native man has no problem not celebrating this. Why we shouldn't celebrate Thanksgiving is because the Most High said not to. That should be, easy enough. And we're going to look at the scriptures and look at examples of when he says, do not celebrate these days. We're going to look at some examples. Deuteronomy 12. We got that? Starting in verse 30.
Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 30. Take heed to thyself that thou be not snared by following them. After that they be destroyed from before thee, and that thou inquire not after their gods.
Okay, he says, take heed, he's talking about these nations, that you not inquire after them. Thanksgiving is not a day the Most High set up. You're not going to find that in Leviticus 23. There's Passover, days of unleavened bread. Oh, there is the fourth one, Thanksgiving. It's not there, folks. It's not there. Okay, this is a holiday made by, a nation that we are to separate from. Who made it official? I think Abraham Lincoln made this official. Lincoln made this official. So we're going to follow Lincoln? We shouldn't. Because, there's definitely some stories there about Lincoln. We should be following the Most High. And, we're not supposed to do the customs of the nation. This is a white man's holiday. And you know why this is important to the white man? Because this is a day where he commemorates the slaughter. See, the day we should be happy about, where we should be breaking bread with the Most High told us, is Passover. Because that has to do with the slaughter of our enemies. You see how the Most High works? See, the white man likes this holiday because he slaughtered our people. So yeah, you would have Thanksgiving. That's why he likes, his holidays. Because it has to do with the slaughter or the oppression of our people, or when he's getting his independence. That's why the 4th of July is important to him. It's not important to us. See, Passover is our Independence Day. Passover commemorates the slaughter of our enemies when the Most High fought for us. You see, that's a day that should bring us together. Not a day where we're going to sit around and talk about, all the natives getting destroyed. Let's look at another scripture. Oh, did we go through 31? Did we finish that?
Lies, sir.
Oh, let's finish through 31.
And that thou inquire not after their gods, saying, how did these nations serve their gods?
So do not inquire, how do these people serve their gods? Okay? Do not inquire of them. Let's continue.
Even so will I do likewise.
Did you hear that? Even so will I do likewise. And that has been our attitude as Israelites. We inquire of what another nation's doing, and then we try to stamp God into the Most High into it. We try to put the label into it. We'll adopt the custom ways, but then we'll put, we'll stamp the Most High's name on it like it's just approved. Let's find out what else it says.
Thou shalt not do so unto the Lord thy God, for every abomination to the Lord which he hath, have they done unto their gods.
What was one of the things that made the Most High mad that these nations were doing, that it burned him up? Does anybody know? What was one abomination that they did that he always told Israel that this would, there's so many of them, but I'm just thinking of this would fit this. Does anybody know? Okay, one of the abominations was of how they sacrifice their children to the fire. How they sacrifice their children to fire. So it's like we shouldn't be, doing Thanksgiving, because that talks about the slaughter of our children in a sense. Because in Thanksgiving, men, women, and children were slaughtered and raped. There were so many Native American women that were raped by the settlers, the Spaniards, and the English. So many. And they didn't get tried for it. And so this is like putting our sons and daughters through the fire. And we're going to go, we shouldn't do a custom like that. Because that's talking about putting our sons and daughters through the fire. So that's why we shouldn't do this holiday. Let's look at another scripture. We finish on that?
Lies.
Okay, let's finish that up.
For even their sons and their daughters they have burnt in the fire to their gods.
Exactly. Exactly. All right, let's look at Deuteronomy 20, and let's look at verse 17 through 18. We just want to go through some of these scriptures today to just see how the Most High was very specific on how we are to, how we are to worship Him. I mean, He's very specific with these laws, statutes, and commandments. He was very meticulous, I like that word, of what we were supposed to do. And one of the things He always reminded us is do not be like the other nations, because the other nations had abominable practices that He did not want us to do. So when we are doing Thanksgiving, we are actually practicing some of those abominable practices that the Most High does not like. One of the things, a lot of times they have a big ham at the table. Big ham at the table. Okay, and we know that's detestable and unclean. We know that's unclean. And then, like I said, we're talking about the sacrifice and slaughter of our native ancestors. So this is not something that we should do. We got Deuteronomy 20 and verse 17.
Deuteronomy chapter 20, verse 17. But thou shalt utterly destroy them, namely the Hittites and the Amorites, and the Canaanites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, as the Most High thy power hath commanded thee.
So we were supposed to destroy, we were supposed to cut, and we were supposed to cut, not have any relationships with them. We were supposed to sever those Hamite nations. We were not to follow after when we were in that land. The same applies here. We are not to go after those nations. We have some more?
18. That they teach you not to do after all their abominations, which they have done unto their gods. So should ye sin against the Most High your power.
Okay? Celebrating Thanksgiving causes you to sin against the Most High. Flat out. Celebrating Thanksgiving causes you to sin because you're doing the abominable practices that the heathen does. So celebrating his holidays it's just contrary. That should be proof enough. Let's look at one more scripture and then let's look at Exodus 34. Just want to get a few scriptures of why. So while we're looking for Exodus 24, point number 1, why should we celebrate Thanksgiving? Most High said not to do it. He said not to go after the other gods, not to worship Him in the way that these other nations are doing, not to go after them, not because it will cause us to sin against Him. And it will cause us to be destroyed. One of the reasons why we are destroyed is because we are doing the abominable practices that the nations around us are doing. And if you notice, when we do those abominable practices, we suffer more. Our people suffer more. If we practice homosexuality, those diseases really just flood in our community. We eat pork, high blood pressure, diabetes just flowing right in. It's we get it. That should show us we ain't supposed to be doing this stuff. That should be a sign right there. White man does it, we do it. Whoo! We gonna feel it because obviously we're not supposed to do that. We got Exodus chapter 34. Let's read verse 12. Let's go through 12 to 14.
Exodus chapter 34, verse 12. Take heed to thyself, lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land whither thou goest.
And that shows what we've done. Making a covenant with the people of that land. And I always say this, when you vote for your Democrat or your Republican, you're making a covenant. You're making a covenant with those people, with those political parties. You're making a covenant. And what happened to our native brothers? They made covenants with the white man. Treaties. It's covenants. It's agreements. And we know what happened. All right, what else is said? Baba Kushab.
Lest it be for a snare in the midst of thee. 13. But ye shall destroy their altars, break their images, and cut down their groves. For thou shalt worship no other God, For the Most High, whose name is jealous, is a jealous power.
Let's read 14 as well. I'm sure. That was 14? Throw out. All right, so if you notice here, the Most High is very clear and specific. Now, what's the history of Israel? What's our history? Everybody knows our history. What's interesting about our history is that Israel never really, I like to say this because it always repeated throughout the scriptures. Israel never, they abandoned the Most High, but they never completely abandoned him per se, like they didn't want nothing to do with the Most High. Israel always felt like had that slick attitude. Like they would worship other gods, but then they would mingle it with the Most High, try to mingle the Most High in it. And that's actually what made the Most High even more disgusted with us when we would do that. Because there's, the scripture even said, Most High was like, Yahweh says, I'd rather you be hot or cold. But what would we, it's like we all, a lot of times we have that lukewarm attitude. Like you would see the priests in Yahweh's time, they would make a sacrifice to the Most High, but also to the Emperor of Rome. So it's like we always mixed. And you see this attitude today with Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter. You see us as Israelites, we always mix the Most High in with abominable things of other nations. Well, I am thankful. I'm thankful to God, and I'm going to sit there and eat my ham. God knows my heart. It's like mix. I'm celebrating Thanksgiving. Of course, Christmas. It's Jesus' birthday. Mary somehow got impregnated, somehow, by a ghost. And, we're going to celebrate Christmas. I don't know how the two go together, but we're celebrating. We're going to celebrate it. You see, they try to put both together, and that's what makes Yahweh shout. I'm celebrating Easter. Easter commemorates the resurrection of Yahweh Shah. Also has to do with bunnies. It's just like it's like the two mix in. Well, that is our history. That is Israel's history. And that's what would make the Most High so angry at us. Is because we weren't completely cold. We were never like, you know what? I'm out of here with the Most High. I'm out. I'm going to be like really into this nation, do my thing, and it's like we always had to mix it in like, yeah, I still believe in the Most High, but I also believe in sacrificing my children. It was like both. And this is why the Most High was so angry with us. This is why. We got put out of the land because we were never, and that's actually even worse, because we were not following him with all of our heart, soul, and mind, which is the first commandment, the greatest commandment, which is second. And then we weren't being brotherly. We weren't loving him with all our heart, soul, and mind. Okay, I mean, if you look at it, like, take in Elijah's time. What did Elijah the prophet say to Israel when it came to the prophets of Baal? He said, stop being between two opinions. It's like they were like, Israel was like, oh, let's actually look at that scripture. Let's look at 1 Kings 18:21. See, like Elijah was like listen, stop being between two opinions. And that's how we got to think of with this Thanksgiving Christmas, because we as Israelites, we either going to really come out of Babylon and all these, or if not, just go all the way in. And I'm not really telling you to do that, but it's like, stop being on the fence. Stop putting because when you put the Most High's name, on something that has nothing to do with him, that's profaning his name. That's disrespect. Like you wouldn't want your name put on something, and you had nothing to do with it. You would say, hey, keep. What people saying? Yo, keep my name out of that. That's the Most High. Keep my name out of that. But what do? We just put it right into those abominable things. Listen to what Elijah said this to Israel when it came to the prophet. We got 1 Kings 18, verse 21. Let's take a look at that.
1 Kings, chapter 18, verse 21. And Elijah came unto all the people and said, how long halt ye between two opinions? How
long are you going to be between two opinions? Because that's our story. Our story is taking the customs of the nations and taking the Most High and mixing it. What else does it say?
If the Most High be God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him.
Make a choice. Make a choice, Israel. And we have to do that. And what the Most High told us is we better choose right because our life will depend on it. You better choose right. But by you being in between, the two opinions, you definitely ain't going to be in the kingdom of that with that attitude. Let's look at Revelation 3. Yahweh even says it. Let's look at Revelation 3, looking at verses 15 through 16. Yahweh is saying this. Saying, is like, pretty much choose a side. But what we have done throughout our history, even in the biblical times, we haven't chosen a side. We've been on the fence. Actually, when you're disobeying God, you have the Most High, you are choosing a side. But in our minds, God knows what's in my heart. God knows what's in my heart. I will be a homosexual. He knows what's in my heart. And you can't put the Most High's name attached to that. You can't attach Yahweh's name to that. You can't do that. That causes you to get vomited out of here. That causes you to put out. We got Revelation 3.
Come.
Let's start in verse 15.
Revelations chapter 3, verse 15. I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. I would thou wert cold or hot.
I'd rather you choose a side. Think about this with Thanksgiving. Stop. If you go celebrate the slaughter of natives, just say it. Don't put a thankful and put Yahweh's name on it or Yahweh's name on it. If you're going to say, I'm commemorating the slaughter of thousands of natives and I'm going to eat a ham with it and I'm going to carry it like that, then carry it like that. But don't try to carry it like, I just want to be thankful to the Most High for the slaughter because I have food to eat and my family to sit with. Don't do that. Okay, you got to choose a side. Yahweh said, I'd rather you be one way or the other. Let's read some more on that.
Come. So then, because thou art lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. Spew that? I mean, that's really pretty much not making it into the kingdom. That's not being in the land. Like, the land, the Most High, I think it was in Leviticus, 18 or 19, the land will vomit you out. You won't be able to be in the land. The land will, where do we find this in the Bible before? We found this at the beginning. What God has put out. We took of a mixed tree. Not a literal tree. I'm not saying it was really like an apple, in Christian church with an apple there. But my point is, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It was mixed. The Most High said, hey, take all this, don't deal with this. It was mixed. And what did we do? And what did our, took of it? Mixing. Two opinions. It was good and evil. Okay, and that's our history. And that's why you see us in Israel today, that's why we take on these holidays and think it's okay. Because we think if we just put, the Most High's name on it, that everything just washes away. It doesn't. And so it goes back into the beginning. You take with tree of knowledge of, he said, the day that you eat this, you will die. And I'm not talking about a little tree like Abe took an apple down and but I'm saying it was the idea, food for thought. You weren't supposed, it was a custom, it was something that she wasn't supposed to do. And she took it. Like food for thought, ideas, maybe a form of worship. You weren't supposed to do that. And the day you do it, he said you shall die. And that's what's happening. And that's why we're dying. Because we've got to get back to these laws, statutes, commandments. So, and let me ask you, what's the biggest mixture of them all? What's the mother of them all? We know what that is. Christianity. Say it again? Oh, I was going to say Christmas.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. I was talking about Christianity. Yeah, Christianity is that's what's really why we destroy it. Christianity is really the reason. Because, Christianity approves of Thanksgiving. Christianity approves of homosexuality. Christianity approves of child molestation. Christianity approves of Christmas. Christianity approves of Easter. Christianity approves of the slaughter of thousands of Native Americans.
Women voting.
So like
Women voting.
Voting. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Or us choosing a party. Christianity approves of that. Be a Republican. Be a Democrat. Christianity approves of that. And you see what Christianity does? It takes the customs and the customs and the beliefs of these nations and mixes it in and just stamps Yahweh's name on it, and it's okay. That's exactly why Christianity will kill you. I tell people that because I always talk about my life as I grew up in the Christian church. It will kill you. It will really kill you. And the thing is you won't even know you're being killed.
It's like
Come on, sir.
This Thursday, a lot of people are going to perhaps get exposed to COVID and perhaps even die trying to have dinner around some turkey.
Exactly.
It's going to literally kill them.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, because Christianity approves of all of this. It approves of that. It approves of that. But Christianity doesn't approve the things that the Most High says, though. It doesn't approve of the Most High's feast days. Nah. Doesn't even approve of a man having more than one wife. Oh, that's bad. You can be a homosexual. You better not have more than one wife. You can be a homosexual, though. Christianity is okay with that. Being a homosexual. What? You have more than one woman? Blasphemy. Okay? Christianity don't approve of that. So, and Christianity approves of women leading you, the black man. Christianity approves of that. You better shut up if you're a Christian and you're a black man. Because that is a religion for a black woman that's trying to step on you. That's her. That's her domain. And I ain't insulting the sisters. I'm talking about the people that are trapped in the Christian church. I'm not talking about our sisters, that have come out. And I ain't insulting our black sisters, but it's true. Christianity is the religion. Where, the black woman can step on the black man. And it's okay. Because when she gets filled with the Holy Ghost, and, you better watch out. Better watch out. So, reason number one, the Most High said don't do it. Reason number two, we shouldn't celebrate Thanksgiving because it commemorates the slaughter of thousands of Israelites. And why would you commemorate a day that is hurtful to, brothers in your brothers that are part of the nation of Israel? They might just be of other tribes, they might necessarily, but they might be of the other tribes. Why would you commemorate a holiday like that? That's a slap in their face. So reason number two, you shouldn't do it. Okay? All right. So let's now look at, so we see why we shouldn't celebrate Thanksgiving. Now let's take a look at when we start to, take on the culture of our nation. See, the thing that we need to understand is when we start taking on the culture of other nations, these other nations do not have the best intent for us. They don't want the best for us. The scripture even tells us that. So as we're taking on becoming a Republican or a Democrat, or being a Christian, stuff that the white man has put on us, the end result is not for us to be what the Most High wants for us. The end result is for us to be in servitude or to be destroyed. Do you really think about this? Do you think an enemy nation is really going to give you something that's going to make you higher than them or look better than them? Do you really think, you got to think about that. Do you really think that they're going to have you do something that's going to make you put you above them? Of course not. And this is why they love to push these things on us. One, it makes us forget who we are when we, celebrate these holidays. Thanksgiving makes us forget about the Most High's days that He gave us. Okay? Because we're just so worried about, we got to get together, and get with our family. When the Most High has 7, festivals in Leviticus 23 that you could easily, it tells you to get with your family at that time. It tells us all to Israel to gather together. But do you think they're really going to give you a holiday or something like that that's going to really put you in a good light? Of course not. Do you think they're going to have you join a political party where you're going to be above them? Of course not. So the thing is that you have to understand is you need to now understand why the white man has done this. There's a reason why. Because of course he wants to destroy you. He wants you to be against the Most High. Let's look at some scriptures. I always like to start on this. We read this almost every week, but I like this. Because you got to know why they're doing this. Why is he pushing Thanksgiving? Why is he pushing Columbus Day? Why does he push Halloween? And especially in our black community, why is this really being pushed? Why? Well, let's look at Psalm 83, and let's read verses 3 through 8. We're not going to, we're not going to break everything down because we've broken this down before, but, you just want to know the reason why. And you want to know how your enemy works. Okay? You want to know how your enemy works towards when it comes to you. Okay? Because this is also the history of Thanksgiving. Because a lot of scholars that are historians, what do they say? History repeats itself. And if we don't learn of what happened, if we don't learn from what happened to our native brothers, then it's just going to, it is happening to us, but it's going to keep happening to us. Because first, we still don't realize who our enemies are. We still keep thinking that the white man is our friend. We keep thinking that. But the scriptures tell us that he's not. The scripture tells us his intent. Even if he comes as a serpent or a sheep and a wolf in sheep's clothing, he's telling us. Let's look at Psalm 83, starting in verse 3.
Come. Psalm chapter 83, verse 3. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people.
They have taken crafty counsel. Thanksgiving is crafty because it makes you forget what happened to our native brothers when the turkey's in your face and ham. And, the sweet potatoes and the cranberry. You're not thinking of that. And in fact, I have to tell people know who I am. People know I'm a teacher. I actually told my students today, but this was our last day. I told my students, I said, I want y'all to do me a favor. I said, I want y'all to study the history of Thanksgiving. And I asked them what they thought of Thanksgiving. Of course, pilgrims, natives are sitting down. And I said, I want you to just look at the history of it. I said, because it's a darker history. And, one of the children asked, it was like, wait a minute. They were like, you're trying to tell me that the pilgrims were mean to the natives? They really didn't know. They didn't know. Why? Because they have the color pictures of the natives and the pilgrims sitting down there, and everybody looks happy. Remember, Squanto's like this. Squanto's the happy one right there. One of the children asked that. You mean to tell me the pilgrims were mean? Because it's a plot behind this. That's why the white man does this. That's why these nations do this to us. That's why they have us singing and dancing, so we won't remember. Guess what? Who's not dancing though? The Jewish man ain't dancing because every time you talk to him, I don't know people here watch the History Channel. You can tell who owns the History Channel. I'm a history person. And every time I turn the History Channel on, they're always talking about Adolf Hitler. I'm talking about Adolf Hitler and the secret Nazis. What was Hitler hiding? Every other episode, because the Jews don't want you to forget what Hitler did to them. They don't want you. You can tell they run the History Channel. They don't want you. I'm talking about and I get tired of it sometimes because I'm like, can I get some other history than Adolf Hitler? I think I'm an Adolf Hitler scholar just by watching the History Channel. I'm an Adolf Hitler scholar. What did Hitler like to? He liked tea. He liked this. He liked to watch old movies. Because every time I'll have, some people have the sports channel running all night. I'll have the History Channel just running all night. And every episode is about Hitler. You know why? Because that Jewish man, that Khazarian man, he don't want nobody to forget what happened to him. He don't want that. He ain't dancing and singing about it. When I went to the Holocaust Museum in D.C., all the tourists were Jewish. And they made you feel it when you were walking through there. Because they didn't want you to forget. They wanted you to come out there with some type of way. So it's just, but what's the plot towards us? Thanksgiving, turkey, cranberry, ham. So we can just laugh and smile. Let's continue reading.
Come on. And consulted against thy hidden ones.
They consult against thy hidden ones because they don't want us to know the truth. Let's keep going.
They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation.
When you don't know what happened to your Native American brothers, and they were cut off. They were cut off. How many? They said millions covered this earth, this landmass. Millions. How many people have gone out? I mean, remember Chris Rock? Chris Rock said it best in his comedy. He said, I have seen a polar bear ride a tricycle before I've seen a native family at Red Lobster just chilling. And that's a bold statement right there, but it's true. What have you gone out and honestly, when you see a native family, it's like a special sighting. It's like, I mean, like I always say, it's like Nessie or what's the Loch Ness unicorn, Sasquatch. Like, what they're a Bigfoot. You're like, is that native? Is that a real native? Like when you see like a genuine tree, you're like, that's a native right there. Like you have to look twice because you just don't see it. But every year when Thanksgiving comes around, they make sure you don't remember that. So what do? The Macy Parade. Then they put all the shows on, because what happens on Thanksgiving Day? They don't want you to remember that history. They put the Grinch on. They put what's the movie with the white boy? He's talking about his A Christmas Story on. They put all this stuff on. Charlie Brown. Because they don't want you to know the history. They just want you to be in that dancing and singing mode. That's what they want you to do, just like what the scripture said. Sing us a song. And you know where we do a lot of singing at, right? The Christian church, of course. And that's why. But you turn on that History Channel, you don't see none of those, you don't see any singing on there. You don't see any singing. None. Let's keep it going. Baba shot.
That the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance.
That the name of Israel be no more in remembrance. Let's keep it going.
For they have consulted together with one consent.
So we've gone over this before. These are the nations that have gone over us with one consent. Let's read a couple more.
They are confederate against thee.
Okay, they join together against thee. When it comes to, like, a lot of these nations don't like each other, but when it comes to destroying you, they will unite. We talked about that before. Let's hear some of those nations.
The tabernacles of Edom.
White man first one, because he's number one on the list. Who else?
And the Ishmaelites.
Ishmaelite, Arabs right there. Who else?
Of Moab.
Okay, so we've gone through this. So, pretty much these nations are confederate against you. They will do anything and everything so that you will forget. Okay? The white man will be sitting up there, and the white man is so slick when he does this, because the white man will always make it seem like he's helping you in your condition. So what do? The white man will go into the hood, he'll give turkeys out to the Negro, I'm trying to help them. And he'll give turkeys out. Why is he really giving them? He wants you to forget. He wants you to forget. So he'll give those turkeys out. I'm giving free turkeys out. He wants you to forget. Okay? And then it says of the Arabs. And then you go into the Arab shop, he'll probably be selling you something that you can, add to your Thanksgiving dinner. Okay? Then you got the Asian man. They all are part of that plot. So that you forget that your brothers were slaughtered on this day. You will forget that. So you forget. Let's look at another one. Let's look at the Apocrypha. Let's look at Ecclesiasticus. Let's start in chapter 12. And then go 10 through 12. I mean, the point of this is that we have to understand why it is important for us. It is important for us not to observe Thanksgiving as a people. It is important for us. We gotta have that same attitude even more of how that Jewish man acts. Because the Jewish man will throw it in your face every day when he talks about Hitler and everything else that happened to him. He will talk about it every day. Every day. And in fact, if you speak against the Holocaust, you can get in trouble. That's how serious they are. You speak against. What's so funny? I've always thought this was interesting. They are still Nazis even after World War II. World War II ended in 1945. Nazis from 1945 and all that fled, went to South America, whatever. They were still being caught and arrested. And I was like, what's interesting? They have pictures of Negroes being hung from the trees, and white people sitting there like this, and they were like, I'm like, how come they never went out to them? That was right there, hanging us from the tree. Where did the police? Did anybody ever go after them? Absolutely not. I mean, and they're right there. They could find a Nazi in South America hiding, but they got picked. I mean, we see them. You look at the lynching picture. Guess what? Those people are still alive. And they're like this at the cookout with the children right there and everything. Why are we going after them? That's a crime.
Like it's about either last year or year before last, there was a gentleman, they nicknamed him the bookkeeper of Auschwitz. And then he didn't actually murder or kill anybody, he was just the accountant. He was the bookkeeper, but still they hauled him in at 90 plus years old in a wheelchair. This is like no more than 2 years ago.
Yep.
And said that, he escaped justice because, he got to live to be 90 something. And they still put him in prison. He died shortly thereafter, but they locked him up. But he actually didn't kill anybody. He actually didn't harm anybody. He was the accountant. He was the bookkeeper.
And they can find these and they find these men in hiding. But you have pictures, photographs. I mean, we see the police hosing down blacks and beating them with we see just regular people just lynching blacks. I've seen pictures of them. And they sitting there, thumbs up. And they're like, you can see them clear. They in a picture like this, smiling as the black man is dead. I'm like, I probably never went after that person. I'm like, you probably can identify him. You can find a Nazi in the jungles of South America. I'm like in the jungles. Like, these people change their name. I'm like, this guy is clear. Like, he took a selfie. Like, that was the old selfie. You took a selfie right there next to the lynch black. And nothing. That's why we know it's a plot. Let's look at Ecclesiastes chapter 12. It will tell us how our enemy is. Start in verse 10.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 12, verse 10. Never trust thine enemy.
Never trust thine enemy. The white man is our enemy. Never trust him. And it will tell why. Why does it say that?
For like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness.
Just like an iron will rust. When you first get the metal, it's nice and shiny, but over time, it's going to change to, the chemical changes happen. Oxygen hits an oxidation, all that, it starts to rust. Over time, the white man's wickedness will just be revealed. It will come out. He's not going to do something to benefit you. Let's read on.
Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him.
The white man will try to humble himself. He will be there in your movement. I keep trying to say, the more dangerous white man is the liberal white man. I tell people that. The conservative white man is just as dangerous. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like, but the liberal is, I'll say this, the liberal is the sneakier one. Okay, that's the white man that's going to be in your house, eat with you, and said he marched with Dr. King, and he stood up for it. That's the one. That's the one you better be careful, because he is what the scriptures describe. He's got he's got black children. He adopted, Taekwon and Tavon. So he's got adopted black children. He marched with Dr. King. He works for the NAACP. This is the white man that's going to destroy you. It's all the time. That's the one you better be most careful of. He's biding his time. That's all he's doing. I don't care how friendly he is. And he'll even agree with you. He'll talk about white people around you. Have you noticed white people talk about that white trash? I tell you, white people, white privilege. They'll talk about it. You know why? Because he wants you to bring down those barriers so he could be ready to strike. And so he has your trust. He'll talk about white people around you. I agree with you. Yes, white privilege existed. What? They'll do it. They're the most dangerous one. That's the most dangerous one, the one that's always trying to help with your cause. Be careful of that, because this is what the scriptures will. Let's find out what else. He humbles himself. That's what he does. What else is said?
And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust hath not been altogether wiped away.
Right. Be careful of that. And the scripture says, never trust thine enemy. You are not to trust that white man. I don't care how many black friends he has. I don't care if he marched with Dr. King. I don't care. I'm telling you, he's buying his time. He will never look at you as an equal. I'm going to tell you that. And the way I can put it even further is because I grew up in white schools. I tell people, first part of my life, I grew up in white schools. I don't care how, you got the white friend in school with you, you run around and you're cool. But the white man will never look at you as an equal. Never. He will never. I don't care how cool he is with you. I don't care if you've been to his house, y'all had a cookout. You know, and his white family accepts you. You know, they always call you the son. You're my son as well. That really means slave. You're a part of our family. Believe me, never will look at you as an equal. The day that they feel like they're above you, that's when things change. That's when things will start to change. Then you'll see the rust come out just like iron. The day that they feel like you're about to be above them, that's when all hell will break loose. That's what all hell. Let's read one more scripture because I know we need to move on because I wanted to get into. Let's read Psalm 55. This also talks about our enemy, what our enemy will do. Psalm 55, and let's read verses 20 through 21. So we just want to see, it's just, why does this have to do with Thanksgiving? Because what our native brothers did is they trusted that white man when he came over. They made treaties with him. And what did the white man do? He lied to them. He was just trying to get an advantage. He had them teach him. They taught him how to cultivate the land. And then they took that land. And you see, our Wampanoag brothers and our Narragansett brothers and our Massachusetts brothers, you know, with the way they thought of land, is you could tell they were Israelites because they believed in inheritance territory, but within their jurisdiction. But the white man felt like anything he touched was his. That's why the scripture says he is a vagabond. You know, he's a vagabond. That's why the scripture calls him that when he talks about Cain. All right, let's read Psalm 55. Let's start in verse 20.
Psalms chapter 55, verse 20. He hath put forth his hand against such as be at peace with him.
He's put forth his hand. You know, the white man will always come to. Somebody said it best to me. The white man is not your friend, he's just friendly. He'll be friendly to get what he wants. That's why they even said the best businessman in the world are white men. Because the white man will say stuff and it just, you know, he speaks fast and wheels and deals, and you be like, yeah, that sounds like, you know, if you're talking business with a white man, if you're in a white man talk, he'll make it sound like gold. And but then you look back and like, what the heck was he talking about? He'll give you a contract, put the contract down, it's words small, print, you can't really understand. But he'll try to make it sound like, but really, if you take this product, then you lose X, Y, Z, and gold will come out, and X, and you'll be thinking like, yeah. You know, and you'd be like, well, what's this? Oh, that's just blah, 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 blah. He speak real fast, words you don't even understand, and just that blah, 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 this, all that, just sign right here. And you just sign it, okay, you know. So you saying when I sign this, I'm going to become great? Yeah, that's going to become great. You know, just like, you know, all our black, you know, athletes or singers. Then when payday comes, the white man is getting his cake, and you're like, well, where's my money? Well, and then he always has, did you sit in the contract here, it says that blah, 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 and he reads all this stuff in the small print, and he broke. But he was so friendly when he was selling it to you. So he's peaceful to you. And that's what he did to the natives. Peaceful. Help me cultivate the land. Help. And our Wampanoag brothers did that. Until they started knowing what was going on, then they started fighting back. Let's read what else it says.
He hath broken his covenant.
Broke the treaties. Let's keep it.
The words of his mouth were smoother than butter.
That's when he talks to you. His words are smoother than butter. Smoother than butter when he talks to you. He convinces you too. He convinces you. What else does it say?
But war was in his heart.
When the white man came and got to the Wampanoag's land and all the other lands of our native brothers, war was in his heart. And he was so bold that he didn't even ask the natives, well, what's this land called? He just named it. Jamestown. Sounds good to me. You know, just right after the Kings, Virginia, after the Virgin Queen. Sounds good to me. Didn't even ask the people, like, well, what's this country right here? What is this called? You know, what is this called? Jamestown. And that was it. And that's why things are just still named after him today. It stuck.
Slocky, sir.
Come.
Blacks are still named after him today.
The last name of blacks, right. The last name of like Johnson, you know, Patterson, you know, you could tell that ain't, you know, our names. You know, you could just look at a black's last name. Robinson, white names. You can tell. You know, because the white man will put his mark. He marks his territory and he takes. He just takes. So, war was in his heart. Now, before we get into the third reason, I know because time is, you know, I want us to go into now talking about, so, let's go over this real quick. Why should we go to Thanksgiving? Number one, the Most High said we shouldn't. Number two, because it's an insult to our native brothers or Israelite brothers who were slaughtered. Thousands of them were slaughtered. That's number two. And we also saw why we should trust our enemy, because our enemy does things. He speaks in a certain way so that we will forget what really happened. He makes us forget our heritage. When we celebrate Thanksgiving and we celebrate these holidays that are contrary to the Most High, we forget who we are. We forget that. We forget where we came from. But he does that. He likes to sell you these things. That's why he plays his media and does this, because he wants you to forget. So it's telling you how our enemy will do. Our enemy is plotting against us. He wants to cut us off from being a nation. Okay? He has slick words. He does things. Okay? So now we have to figure out, before we go into point number 3, is a topic that I've heard people go against, and it's been controversial. Are the natives Israelites? Because you got some people out there like they're not Israelites. Well, let's look at history. Let's look at some history. I'm not the best historian. I told you the only thing I know about watching the History Channel is I know all the stuff about Hitler. But if they show some more stuff in history, maybe I can get better. But I'll do my best. So let's look at history. Let's look at the Bible and see if this matches our native brothers. Let's look what the Bible says, and let's look at history. Okay? And let's see how maybe it will match up. Are the natives Israelites? And we're going to go through that, and then we're going to say what is a brotherly thing to do around this time. What is brotherly? And that's going to be our third point. All right, so first of all, let's start off with the master killer of some of our first native brothers. Let's start with Christopher Columbus, because I call him the master killer because he pretty much wiped out the Tainos, even though there is Columbus Day. Okay, but we don't do that. You know why? You know why we don't know he didn't do that? Because when we were in school, what did they have us do? They had us sing. See, when they get black people to sing, we just forget. We were singing in class. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. They didn't put that second verse, and he killed the Tainos too. You know, they didn't put that in that verse. Because we were like, wait a minute, what the music teacher, we'd be like, wait a minute, slow down. But no, they had us singing about this, okay? So let's start out with Christopher Columbus. Well, historians know that one of the reasons that Christopher Columbus actually was using the Apocrypha to navigate, one of the ways to navigate to what he thought the West Indies was. Okay, because he was using the Apocrypha because he knew, reading the Apocrypha, that the children of Israel were over in that part of the world. Now, he was trying to get to the West Indies, but he thought going that route that he went, was going to take him to India, because he couldn't go to the land routes because the Muslims were all taking that. That's why he took the ocean. People don't even know that. But he couldn't walk over there because the Muslims had taken over all that land. So he thought if he go this way, he thought if he sailed the way that he did, that he was going to hit the lands that was mentioned in the Apocrypha. He was using the Apocrypha. And he also knew that if you look in the Apocrypha talks about where the children, the 10 tribes of Israel went. It talks about it. Because actually, when Columbus, some historians have said this, when Columbus got here, he started speaking Hebrew, and they said some of those natives understood what he said. But let's see historians are talking about that, but let's even see what the Apocrypha says. Let's look at 2 Ezra 13. Let's start with 2 Ezra 13, 40 through 45. Okay, so the lost 10 tribes, they're not really, they're not lost, but they refer to them as the northern kingdom. The northern, 2 Ezra 13, we're going to read verses 40 through 45. So they're really not lost, but the northern kingdom we know was put away first. I think it's 2 Kings 17, when pretty much the northern kingdom was booted out. They got booted out. All right, and we know not everybody was pretty much because I think Anna was part of the tribe of Asher, but northern kingdom was pretty much dismembered. But we know that Paul and the other apostles, when they were going to the Gentiles, they were northern kingdom. But if you look here in 2nd Ezra, it also actually talks about where the northern kingdom went. Let's look at 2nd Ezra 13. And let's look at starting in verse 40.
2nd Ezra, chapter 13, verse 40. Those are the 10 tribes.
Okay, so it's talking about the northern kingdom. Okay, we know the kingdom split after with Solomon. Okay, we know the kingdom split. So we had the northern and southern kingdoms, 10 tribes, and they're behind me if you need to, We had the southern kingdom, which was Judah, Levi, Benjamin. The northern kingdom was all the other ones.
Which are carried away prisoners out of their own land.
So they were carried away. 2 Kings 17 talks about how they were put away. And Judah was left. Keep going.
In the time of Osee, the king.
Okay.
Whom Salamzar, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters.
Okay, so they're going over the waters. Okay, so this is big. Okay.
And so came they into another land.
So let's talk about they came into another land. Okay, they came into another land, and what does it say?
But they took this counsel amongst themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen.
Okay.
And go forth into a further country.
I'm sorry. So they go into a further country. So they took heed. We're going to another country. Okay.
Where never mankind dwelt.
Okay, where never mankind dwelt. So the natives, pretty much all scholars agree, the natives were over here first and were here a long time before the Europeans showed up. They were here. They were here. I mean, they had history dating back, for a long time, for generations. They were here. Okay? Let's keep going.
That they might there keep their statutes.
Now, if you notice, there have been tablets that have been found. There have been you notice that the natives kept some of those customs. The natives had the tassels, or not the tassels, what do they call it? Fringes, that's what they're called, yeah. They're called the fringes. The natives, there have been tablets where natives in native lands that have Hebrew on it. This is even white historians have talked about this. Okay, and they kept some of the stories. Okay, because that's what it's saying. They said they were going to keep it, and they were going to go into somewhere where no man has gone before. All right, what else does it say?
Which they never kept in their own land.
Okay, so they never kept this stuff in their own land. What else?
And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow passage of the river.
Okay.
For the Most High then showed signs for them, and held still the flood till they were passed over.
Okay. Let's keep on. I'll keep on to verse 45.
For though that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half.
Took them a long time to get to this land.
And the same region is called Arsaveth.
Okay, so they went to a land where nobody was before, where nobody was inhabited before, and they went and it took them a long time. So scholars agree that the natives they agree there was nobody else here. The natives were here, and that was their history, or where they were there for generations until the Europeans and other people came over here. They were here. So they went to a distant land, and they kept certain things of their ancestors, of their lineage. Okay, if you look at when the explorers came, now here's the thing. We know the white man is the devil. We know that. But you know what's so funny is the white man's always shocked. Have you noticed that the white man's always shocked because he always thinks he's smarter than you. But when you have something that may be up on him, he's just shocked, like, oh, he speaks really good English, or oh, you knew that? What shocked the explorers when they came over here is, of course, the explorers wanted to put Christianity down the natives' throats. What shocked a lot of them is that a lot of these natives over here knew about the biblical stories. They knew it. There's a tribe called the Choctaw tribe, where when the Europeans came over here, They already knew about the story about Noah. They knew about it. They knew about the great flood because it had been passed down to them. They knew the Hebrew language. There's an explorer, he's called Antonio Montezemos. He was a Spanish explorer. And he said when he went down into one of the native tribes, they were reciting Deuteronomy 6:4. They were reciting that. And he, because they're like, how would you know that? Because the white man is arrogant. How would you know that? He's arrogant. So it's like when you have something that he just didn't think you should know, how did you know that? But there's been plenty of stories by natives themselves who knew how to speak Hebrew, who knew about these stories way before the explorers came. The explorers came in and shoved Christianity down the throat, but they knew these stories. But that fits right into the second Ezra, that they would keep their ways into a distant land because they never kept them on. That's why they were kicked out of the land, because they never kept it. So when they went into this distant land, they kept those customs. That's why you saw them with the fringes, all the fringes of these native tribes. That's why they had these stories, because they were us. Now, some people will say, well, even there's a man that Thomas Jefferson quoted. His name is James Adair, okay, who also was proving that the natives were Israelites. There's a lot of explorers that believe that. Christopher Columbus was one of them. I don't know why he wiped them all out, but I guess, it's white man. But they believed that. He believed when he came over here into this land that he met the lost tribes because they could speak Hebrew. So that's some historical, we looked at it from a history point of view, and there's so much more history, but due to time, let's go through the scriptures. We use these scriptures to show how the black man is Israel, is part of Israel, is the tribe of Judah. Let's see if Deuteronomy 28 fits. We're going to go through them. Let's look at Deuteronomy 28, starting verse 20. Now, we've been over Deuteronomy 28 plenty of times. But let's go through it and looking at, does this fit our native brothers? Does it? We saw in 2nd Ezra how they went into a distant land. They started using the customs of their forefathers. They brought it over here. They could speak Hebrew. They knew the biblical stories. And they kept some of the customs that the Europeans did not introduce them from a biblical standpoint. Well, how would they know that? How would they know that? So let's look at Deuteronomy 28. So we know that about Deuteronomy 28 talks about the blessings and the curses. Let's start in Deuteronomy 28. Let's start in verse 20. And let's see if this fits them. Now, we already know it fits the black man. We already know that. But we're going to go through this. Does this fit the native man? Let's look at that.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 20. The Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke in all that thou settle thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed. And until
stop right there. Until you be destroyed. Everybody can agree that the natives were destroyed. Like wiped out. Wiped out. Everybody can agree on that. Wiped out. Let's read some more. Let's read 21 and 22. Let me know what each verse is too.
You want me to drop that?
No, go keep going. Deuteronomy. Oh, keep reading 20. Just let me know when you get to the next verse, Baba Kushal.
Okay. And until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings.
The perish quickly. When the European man came over here, those natives were wiped out quickly. Quickly. Actually, when the Pilgrims came over here, they went to Plymouth. Plymouth was pretty much an abandoned, all those natives are already dead because of the diseases. That's why they found Plymouth. It was pretty much an empty village because all the natives were dead because of the diseases of the white man. Whole tribes were gone. Let's keep reading.
Whereby thou hast forsaken me. 21. The Most High shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he have consumed thee from off the land.
Pestilence. Let's talk about diseases. 90% of the natives were wiped out due to diseases. measles, smallpox, STDs. The white man brought the STDs over here. The bubonic plague. All of that was brought over here by those explorers. Come.
Malaria was also prevalent in North America.
Malaria. I'm talking about, and it wiped the natives out. I mean, they just just destroyed. And one of the reasons why they, came at us is because, our immune systems were a little bit stronger.
Let me say something funny about that. And just a sidebar for a second. They didn't wipe out malaria in the northeastern part of the United States, where it mainly, was making people sick, until they invented DDT. DDT, they used to fly from planes over top of cities, and that's how they wiped out malaria. And then after it was gone from the United States, they banned it.
Didn't know
and
that.
It's still killing people across the water to this day.
Didn't know that. Wow. Wow. Didn't know that. White man's the devil.
People are still dying from malaria to this day.
White man is the devil.
And they can stop it.
But this shows that he's the devil. That just proves that he is the devil. Let's keep reading.
Come. Whither thou go to possess it. 22. The Most High shall smite thee with a consumption, and with a fever, and with an inflammation, and with an extreme burning.
What does that sound like, folks? That's smallpox. The scab. The smallpox. One of the signs of smallpox is a fever. Scabs. This is smallpox. And they purposely give it some native tribes. This is our native brothers right here.
Put it in the blanket.
Put it on the blanket and trade and it just wiped them out. This is right here. This is talking about our native brothers. Anything else on that?
Come. And with the sword, and with blasting, and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish.
Tell you you perish. The natives will perish from this land. They will perish, and even to this day you don't see them. Let's read verse 23 and verse 24.
Come. 23. And thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron.
What is that talking about? It's like talking about imprisonment. Now, what's the names of imprisonment? The reservations that they have to stay on. The reservations. Well, they actually were first put into just straight up slavery. But then they, said, well, we'll push you into reservations. And that, they used to roam this earth from one place to another. Couldn't do that anymore. Let's read some more.
24. The Most High shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust. From heaven shall it come down upon thee until thou be destroyed.
Totally destroyed. This is talking about our native brothers. This fits. Let's read verse 25.
Come. The Most High shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. So
some people forget about the natives when they were taken into slavery. The natives, Judah was coming this way, the natives were going this way. Okay, Judah came from the Hamite land, was taken down to Barbados, most of them went to the Caribbean, and I think 10% really went to the Americas. Well, the natives went the opposite way. Many natives were kidnapped and taken to Europe for slavery. People forget that. There is actually a whole documentary about the Native American slavery. Or they were taken down into the Caribbean. They were taken there. Actually, we go back to Christopher Columbus. He actually took 1,500 natives and put them on a ship and sent them back to Europe to be slaves. Yes. A lot of natives were taken and scattered into slavery in Europe. Even in the north, there's a northern African Hamite kingdom that they were in too. This talk about you will be scattered to the kingdoms. That's what happened to our native brothers. Let's reverse what we're on. Come.
When after Columbus kidnapped those natives, these were Tainos, I believe, wasn't it?
Come. Or one of them.
Only a few hundred of them actually survived the voyage, and they were found with that.
That's right. I think they said. Wait a minute. Did they say only 500 survived or 500 died?
About 300 survived.
Something like that. Yes, I forgot about that. That's true. Yeah, because they died on the voyage. That's true. I forgot about it. And Christopher Columbus' brother was just as bad.
It's like it was negligible.
Oh well.
Wow, let's go back and get some more.
Because it was him and his brother. I forgot. Him and his brother was just as bad. Him and his brother were just as bad. Yeah, I forgot about that. Most of them didn't even survive. Forgot about it. Good. I'm good on that. That was good. Let's read verse 20. What is it? We're on 25.
Yes.
Let's read. Let's finish 25. Let's read 26.
And thou shalt be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. That'll be the last line.
Come.
26. And thy carcass shall be meat unto all the fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away.
I mean, I like how Yarah Yaahla talks about the bones. We have built all these buildings over the bones of the Native Americans. They cry out. That's the crime that this country has done. And nobody's scared. Nobody's scared. It's just part of the history book. We took the natives' land. But George Washington fought for I mean, it's like so, in school, it's like they just glaze over it. The natives were here. They helped us. We killed them. Next, Abraham Lincoln wanted to save the Union. It's like, that's it. Just glaze over it. Just glaze over it. All right, let's look at verse 27.
Verse 27. The Most High will smite thee with the botch of Egypt, and with the emerods, and with the scab,
smallpox,
and with the itch,
measles,
whereof thou canst not be healed.
They died. There was no cure. There was no cure. That was it. They was out of here. They were out of here. There was no cure for them. Let's read verse 30.
Verse 30. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her.
Do you know how many Native women were raped? In a lot of the Native cultures, when a woman said she was raped, that was punishable by death, because the woman, because they believed the woman because she knew if she lied on the man, he would die. So it was punishable by death. When the Europeans came over here, the Native women, and some of them were dressed probably some of them were probably dressed in a certain way, but these European men would snatch these Native women and rape them. I always talk about Pocahontas. Pocahontas was taken captive, I don't know how many years, but she was taken prisoner, and they gang raped her multiple times. To the fact that they don't even know who Pocahontas' father really was. They believe John Rolfe, the white man she married, was just one of the men that raped her. Just one of them, of the many. And this is the history that they leave out. And they killed Pocahontas' husband in front of her. He tried to fight for her. Because when the Pocahontas, I don't know if y'all see, Disney, I grew up on Disney. But in Pocahontas Disney movie, she was betrothed to this man named Kocoum, and she didn't want him. The Disney movie said she just wanted the white man. That's actually not true. Kocoum was actually her husband. And when they kidnapped her, Kocoum tried to save her, and they murdered him. This fits right into that. Fits right in. They murdered him. Right in front of her. This is the history they leave out as they're putting Pocahontas Disney movies out. And she's just, in a canoe and looking happy because they want us to sing and have that attitude. And none of these European men were tried, put on trial, nothing. And they raped so many Native women. Let's keep reading.
Thou shalt build a house, and thou shalt not dwell therein.
Okay, we know that. That's self-explanatory. Okay, they just took the land. That's self-explanatory.
Mm-hmm. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and thou shalt not gather the grapes thereof.
Okay, they taught the white man how to cultivate, and the white man started making a business off the crops, and then he made his plantation. When the natives taught him, he took those learning lessons and built his big, large plantation farms and made them work on it, and then put us on it. He built a house, another man took it. This is one of my, let's look at verse 32.
Okay. Verse 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long.
Most people do not realize that a lot, even to this day, a lot of natives back and even to now were taken away from their families. The children were, and they were sent to boarding schools. That was the native, if you look at the, what is that called? You know how schools have a motto? The motto, they have a creed or whatever. The motto of the boarding school, you can look this up.
Oh, come on, sir.
Yes.
It was kill the Indian, save the man.
Yes! That's the motto. Kill the Indian, save the man. As they sent all of the native children to boarding schools, which way would never saw their families again. Because they had to forget who they were. They had to forget who they were. They even wanted, what's that, Sitting Bull? I think it was Sitting Bull. I can't remember. To forget who because they put some of these natives into these shows where they had to perform and, just making a fool of them. Making a fool of them. I think it was Sitting Bull that they did that too, and some other natives. Just put them in circus shows. They made a fool of them. But to kill the Indian, save the man. That was the motto. And like I said, you see that in schools nowadays, even in the black community, black Hispanic community. You see that. You see the dominant force in the black and Hispanic community, the dominant force is a white lady. Most of the teachers that you see in the black community is going to be a white woman, or the white social worker, white therapist, white psychologist. You might have some sisters in there, a few. They try to, rare to have a school full of black men teaching black children. Rare. They won't have that. Rare. They won't have it. And I work in the school system. They don't have that. They will not have that. Because they have to have it in a certain way. And it's like the same thing. They cannot teach our kids. And they kill, that's why they kill our black boys. I keep going back to this. I remember I saw a lady, I won't say her name, she, a sincere sister. This sister is sincere. But she was scratching her head and said, she had a council full of teachers, council full of them. And she was scratching her head, and of course the council teachers ain't looking like us. Why are black boys failing? And she couldn't figure it out. And I just wanted to call in and say, I know why black boys are failing. Because you ain't putting a black man to teach them. And she was really trying to ask these council of white people. It's like a lion asking a full of hyenas, why don't we have more lions around here? Like, are you going to say, is a lion going to go to the hyenas? I need help. I don't know how to work. I need help. How do you raise Simba? Because I, Mufasa, do not know how to do it. You're not going to see that. But in our community, you just have a plethora of white people trying to teach our black kids, especially our black boys. And then they're wondering why our black boys are, why are our black boys failing? They just don't, you can't teach them. It's plain and simple. But this did the same thing to our native brothers. Because they wanted to get the savage, civilize them. They wanted them to forget. And that's why they do that, because they want our black boys, and even girls, to forget who they really are. Or they'll try to give them a fake heritage. You guys are Africans. That's what they like to do. You're Africans. They don't want to tell them that they're Israelites. They don't want to tell them that. Let's keep going. Let's look at verse 35.
Come. Verse 35. The Most High shall smite thee in the knees and in the legs with a sore botch that cannot be healed.
STDs, measles, smallpox, bubonic plague. Let's look at verse 36.
Come. The Most High shall bring thee and thy king which thou shalt set over thee unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, And there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone.
Well, listen, that's when Christianity was forced on our native brothers, and a lot of them were taken into Europe, or when the Europeans came over here, they set up shop. They said they were king. Jamestown, Virginia, they did that. Let's look at verse.
And the stone, of course, is
Islam. That's correct. Come. Let's look at verse 41.
Come. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity.
Boarding schools. Let's look at verse 43.
The stranger that is within thee shall go get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. I mean,
the strange white man that came over here, plain and simple, higher and higher. They came on a ship. They came on a ship. You had the Roanoke colony that disappeared. Okay, I think there was like 115, 117 that they disappeared. Then you had the Pilgrims came over here. It was 100 and something of them. Half of them died. And all of a sudden, they just started rising higher and higher. This is what happened.
Sir. The Susquehanna, where the Susquehanna River here in Maryland gets its name, wiped out.
Right. I mean, and there's a lot of these places are named after native. Chesapeake, Massachusetts, wiped out, gone. These are names. I mean, we just got the name, but the people ain't dead, gone. Let's read verse 45, 46. I know we're running out of time. Let's read verse 45 and 46.
Come. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Most High thy power, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. 46. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
And forever means a long time. And this has been happening to the natives for a long time. The Jewish man can't claim that. His Holocaust was 12 years and he got land. His Holocaust was 12 years and he got land. He can't claim that.
He has a name, he has a land.
He has a name, he has a land, and he controls everything. And nobody will dispute that. They might not like me, he controls it. He controls the media. He can't fit, this doesn't fit him. It does not fit him. It does not fit him. So, this fits our native brothers. We could go on. I know it's due to time, but there's some more scripture that talks about how brother will turn on brother. Natives started having to turn each other in. Just to save themselves, or to save, friendly tribes were turning on each other. Because the white man was treating one tribe, being treating the other tribe. They had to turn on each other. It's a sad history. And that is our brothers. This is a more proof that they are our brothers. So we'll have to make this a part 2, but let's recap. Thanksgiving is in 2 days. What are we going to do, Israel? Are we going to commemorate a day? Well, first of all, we're going to commemorate a day that is talking about the slaughter of our native brothers and sisters who are Israelites. Are we going to commemorate a day or treat a meal where they were having a meal in response to slaughtering 600 native men, women, and children, lying to the Wampanoag tribes, beheading Massasoit's son? Are we going to commemorate that? Are we going to commemorate a day that the Most High told us not to? Are we going to commemorate that? That's an insult. One, we want to be brotherly, and we want to obey the Most High. So, Thanksgiving is not a day that the Most High gave to us to do. Thanksgiving is not a day that we should commemorate. Thanksgiving actually makes us forget what happened that day. It makes us forget. And you know why? Because Psalm 137 says it. They want us to sing and forget about it. They want us to sing it away and be happy. So, are we going to sing and be happy and forget about it and try to make it seem like things are okay like they made Squanto? Or are we going to really just obey the Most High and do what he says and be brotherly and know that that was a day of doom, a time of darkness? We actually need to be looking forward to our slaughter day, which is the Passover, where we were spared. And that's what we'll talk about in part 2 of how to be brotherly to our native or our Israelite brothers, because the Most High made days for us that we shall commemorate. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to turn the class over to Priest and Officer Nawar.
ISUPK security announcements. We are the ISUPK out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under commanding General Yaahla. New rules for brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to share themselves of the word. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother or sister will court each other. After this 6-month period, the brother or sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. You can find this in Numbers, chapter 18, verse 21, and Malachi 3 and 8 through 10. It means tenth in Hebrew and is pronounced Ma'ashra. 1/10 of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, you give to the Treasury Department or teacher. Priest fund. It is a free will offering for priests. It is not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like to give. Upcoming Holy Convocation. We have HaKanukah, December 9th, Feast of Dedication. That's coming up. Remind Akim and Akwathium to check on social media such as isupk.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so on for ISUPK events and materials. If a brother wants to become a trooper in the school, then he is to start wearing all black, which includes black boots, shirts, pants, headband, or scarf. And with that, we're going to give one courtesy salute to the teacher, men of Israel. Amajim, Amajim Shabbat, Amajim, Barak, Yahaba Shem Yahshua Barakatah,
Yahaba Shem Yahshua Barakatah,
Yayam Ta, class dismissed.
Speak.